Welcome to Why Stick. Right now, something is living inside your gut that has outlasted everything. It survived the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. It survived volcanic winters that choked the sky for 1,000 years. It survived 5 separate events that nearly wiped all complex life from this planet. And it is still here. So are you. But here is the uncomfortable question. Are you the survivor, or are you just the host? This is not a story about strength. The creatures that survived the great extinctions were not the biggest. They were not the fastest. They were not even the most intelligent. They were the ones that broke every rule about what survival was supposed to look like. And when you understand what they actually did, you will never look at your own bad days the same way again. The Earth has had 5 major mass extinctions. 5 moments when the planet tried, very seriously, to start over. The first happened around 443 million years ago during the late Ordovician period, when somewhere between 85 and 95% of all marine species vanished. The second, the late Devonian, struck about 375 million years ago and wiped out roughly 75% of species over a span of millions of years. The third, called the Permian-Triassic extinction, was the worst of all. 252 million years ago, something killed off an estimated 96% of all marine species and 70% of all terrestrial vertebrates. Scientists still debate what caused it: volcanic activity, methane release, a cascade of consequences that fed itself. The fourth extinction struck during the Triassic-Jurassic boundary, about 201 million years ago, clearing the way for dinosaurs to dominate. And the fifth, the one you already know, came 66 million years ago when an asteroid roughly 10 kilometers wide hit what is now Mexico and ended the reign of non-avian dinosaurs in less than a geological instant. 5 apocalypses, and something survived every single one. Not just survived, thrived afterward. Paleontologist David Jablonski has spent decades studying what he calls the geometry of mass extinction. His work, published across multiple landmark studies from the University of Chicago, shows something deeply counterintuitive. The traits that make species successful during normal times are often the exact traits that get them killed during catastrophes: being large, being specialized, being dominant. In a crisis, all of that becomes a liability. Jablonski found that during mass extinctions, geographic range matters more than almost anything else. The species that lived in many different environments, across many different climates, were the ones that survived. Not because they were tough, because they were everywhere. Think about what that means for a moment. The species that were spread thin, that had adapted to dozens of different conditions, that had never quite conquered any single environment, those were the ones still standing when the smoke cleared. Sound familiar? The horseshoe crab is one of the most famous survivors. It has changed almost nothing in 450 million years. It sat through 3 mass extinctions essentially unchanged. Marine biologist Carl Schuster spent much of his career studying these creatures, and his findings point to something remarkable. The horseshoe crab's circulatory fluid, a blue copper-based blood, is extraordinarily sensitive to bacterial contamination. Its immune system is so ancient and so fundamental that pharmaceutical companies today use a compound derived from it to test every single injectable drug and medical device sold in the United States for bacterial endotoxins. This creature that has not changed in nearly 500 million years is literally keeping you alive every time you receive a vaccine. It survived because it was simple, because it did not overspecialize, because it kept doing a very basic thing extraordinarily well across a very wide range of ocean floors for an incomprehensible amount of time. But then there is the other kind of survivor, the kind that did not stay the same, the kind that changed everything. The ancestors of today's mammals were small, mostly nocturnal creatures during the reign of the dinosaurs. Paleontologist Jizai Luo at the University of Chicago has reconstructed the lives of these early mammals from fossil evidence, and what he found is almost poignant. They hid. They foraged at night when the large predators were less active. They ate almost anything. Seeds, insects, small vertebrates, rotting plant matter. They did not look impressive. They did not dominate any ecosystem, but they were flexible. Their bodies could regulate temperature. Their brains, relative to body size, were already becoming unusually large. When the asteroid hit, darkness followed. Photosynthesis collapsed. The food chains that depended on plants and large animals crumbled. But the small, nocturnal, eat-anything creatures, they found food in the wreckage. They survived in burrows. And when the dust settled over thousands of years, they inherited a world emptied of its former rulers. You are descended from those creatures. Every instinct you have, every reflex, every emotional reaction that seems irrational or outsized in your modern life came from something that survived not one but multiple world-ending events. Your tendency to hoard, your vigilance in new environments, your deep social bonding, your anxiety in open spaces. These are not flaws. They are features of a survival system so successful that it outlasted almost every other complex animal that has ever lived. The third category of survivor is perhaps the strangest, the ones that should not be here at all. Tardigrades, also called water bears, are microscopic animals less than 1 millimeter long. They live in moss, in soil, in deep ocean sediments, in Antarctic ice. Biologist Taikazu Kunieta at the University of Tokyo led a team that sequenced the tardigrade genome, and what they found astonished the scientific world. A full 17.5% of the tardigrade's genome had been acquired horizontally, meaning it had absorbed genetic material from bacteria, fungi, and plants across evolutionary time. Its genome is a patchwork of solutions stolen from across the tree of life. And when conditions become lethal, the tardigrade enters a state called cryptobiosis. It expels almost all the water from its body, curls into a desiccated ball called a ton, and essentially stops existing as a 0.1% of normal. It can remain in this state for decades. It has survived exposure to the vacuum of outer space. It can withstand radiation doses that would kill a human thousands of times over. The tardigrade has survived all 5 mass extinctions. It has probably survived several we do not know about yet. And it does it not by fighting, not by fleeing, but by becoming, for all practical purposes, temporarily not alive. There is something in this that humans have a documented tendency, studied extensively by psychologist Martin Seligman in his research on learned helplessness and later in his work on resilience, to either push hard against adversity or to withdraw and wait. Most popular advice tells you to push, to fight, to keep going. But the biology of survival across geological time suggests that withdrawal, stillness, conservation of energy during the unsurvivable is not weakness. It is one of the most ancient and proven strategies in the history of life on Earth. Your ancestors slept when the world outside was too dangerous. They waited in burrows. They curled up and let the catastrophe pass. And then, when conditions changed, they moved. The cockroach is another example that tends to make people uncomfortable. It has existed in roughly its current form for about 320 million years, surviving 3 mass extinctions. It can live for a week. It can withstand radiation levels about 15 times higher than what would kill a human. Its secret is grotesquely simple. It eats almost anything organic, reproduces at extraordinary rates, and can enter a slowed metabolic state when resources become scarce. It is not beloved. It is not majestic. It is just extraordinarily, relentlessly, stubbornly viable. Viability is not the same as beauty. Viability is not the same as dominance. And viability, it turns out, is the only metric that the universe actually scores. Now consider what this means about the world you are living in right now. Every era of mass disruption, whether ecological, economic, or social, tends to end the dominance of the large, the specialized, and the rigid, and tends to reward the distributed, the flexible, and the opportunistic. The creatures that survived 5 extinctions were not the rulers of their time. They were the ones that lived in many places, ate many things, changed when they needed to, and waited when they could not change fast enough. You carry that blueprint in your cells. When your life feels like it is collapsing, when the environment you built your success in seems to be dying, the organisms that have survived everything this planet has thrown at them are not telling you to be stronger. They are telling you to be wider, to spread out, to generalize when specialization becomes dangerous, to wait when action would be fatal, to absorb what you need from wherever you can find it, the way the tardigrade has been doing since before complex animals had eyes. 5 times, this planet nearly ended all life. 5 times, something small and underestimated and wildly adaptable looked at the wreckage and said, "This is fine. We can work with this. That something is your ancestor." And right now, whether you feel it or not, it is still running the same code inside you that it has been running for hundreds of millions of years. The same ancient algorithm that turned the end of the dinosaurs into the beginning of mammals. the same stubbornness that kept the horseshoe crab building the same body across 500 million years of change. The same cryptobiotic patience that turned the tardigrade into something that can survive outer space. You are not just the product. You are the product of 5 apocalypses. Each one filtered out everything that was not adaptable enough, and what was left after 5 rounds of the universe trying to start over was you. Right now, something is living inside your gut that has outlasted everything. It survived the asteroid. It survived the volcanic winters. It survived 5 separate ends of the world, and it is still here. And so, against almost impossible odds are you. If you want to keep understanding yourself, subscribe. And if you watched this far, what do you want to understand next?